People often say that definitions debates are boring, and that can be true, but they are necessary. And if somebody wants to get bogged down in a definitions debate, the worst thing you can do is just try and blow by them and start talking about the substantive issues, because you're gonna get bogged down in the definitions. Just now you're gonna get bogged down in a situation where it's worse. So let's talk about how to deal with people who like to play word games.
Mr. Anderson.
Hi, my name is Mr. Anderson, and I am mean to people on the internet. I'm always very polite about it, though. I just tend to ask difficult questions and insist on the answers. This shouldn't be a big surprise because I am, in fact, a lawyer. Now, on my channel, you'll find a lot of stuff to do with debate. I kind of specialize in adapting a lot of the tools that we use as lawyers to sort of force people to face difficult truths and kind of cut through the baloney. So, let's talk a little bit about, some of that technique today. Now, just as an aside, one of the benefits of watching my channel is that you do get the insight of a practicing lawyer applying his skills to debate. And the downside is, look, I'm not a professional YouTuber, and I do these videos where and when I can in between my busy life being a lawyer and a dad, and you're going to hear my kids screaming in the background of this video. I assure you that they do not kill each other, and they are alive at the end. Just to warn you. So let's back to the video. So I was watching The Line, which is an excellent show that you guys should all check out. And it's a call-in show where there's a bunch of, they're typically atheists and agnostics who are the hosts, and then people who believe in God tend to call in and debate them. So it's a great debate. Now, look, no shade at, Christians, but typically the people who call into this show have something to prove, and they're trying to kind of, get one over on the hosts. So I think I need to go check on my children. Hang on. Yeah, they're still alive. You guys are my witnesses. If my wife asks, they've been alive the whole time. Anyway, this episode of The Line was hosted by a guy named Paulogia and a woman named Shannon Q, both of whom are really, really smart people, really good debaters whom I have a lot of respect for. And if I'm not mistaken, they're actually a couple, which is kind of funny, in a completely irrelevant way, and that it's just, sort of interesting that by coincidence, these two really smart YouTubers both happen to love each other. At any rate, they are together on this show, and they are talking to a fellow who calls himself Matthew from Ohio, I think. And he starts off the discussion like this.
Over the soul. So I just wanted to point out that the biblical concept of a soul is that we are souls. You are a soul just as much as you are a person. You have a soul just as much as you have a person. Like if I was to ask you, do you have anything on your person? I'm using the possessive wording, but it's saying your soul. It just means your person, who you are. You are a living soul. According to the Bible, God breathed into Adam and he became a living soul.
Okay, so you're just saying the soul is a synonym for the self?
Yes.
Okay, so what attributes does it have that's different than when I just say that I am a self? Like, what's special about it?
Nothing necessarily special about it, more than what's special about you yourself as a human being. Do you find yourself special?
Do you think a soul exists after you die, for example?
I believe we'll be resurrected after we die, and our soul will be there.
Like bodily resurrected?
Yes. That's a whole other concept. But I just want to kind of stay in the lane of the concept of what a soul is.
So you just think a soul is a synonym for person?
That's what I'm presented to biblically.
That doesn't seem to be in line. The Bible talks a lot about the spirit, right? So
right.
Do you not believe
which
in the
is different
spirit?
from the soul. I believe in the spirit, which is different from the soul. I believe in a spirit, which is different from the soul, but I want to focus more on the soul, just so that we get an idea of what the soul is.
Okay, I thought that might be the case. That's why I brought it up. I think that you're
So the
just
Bible
saying the
says
self
that Adam-
or being
God
a
breathed
person is being a soul, but you're not able to give anything substantive outside of personhood that qualifies it as special or different than just personhood.
So in Genesis 2:7, the Bible says that God breathed into Adam, and he became a living soul. He breathed the spirit into Adam, and Adam became a living soul. So he is to be a soul. He is a soul. It doesn't say that God breathed into Adam and he gained a soul. That he became a soul. He is a soul.
So you think a soul is a component of the body then?
A soul is all of you as a person. Adam became a living soul.
I'm touching my nose right now. Is that part of my soul?
Yes.
I'm touching my hair. Is my hair part of my soul?
Yep, all of it. All of you is your soul. You are your soul. You're touching your person. You're touching your soul.
So your body and every aspect of your body. So like my toenails have the exact same attributes as the neurons in my brain.
All of it.
That seems silly to me. Like you don't see any differentiation.
I mean, it'd be silly all live long day. It'd be silly all live long day is what it is.
Yeah, but like
now when you're interacting with a guy like this, and they start, using words in like non-standard ways with like really weird idiosyncratic definitions, it's a little bit not a good idea to kind of go along with it, because for a couple of reasons. One is that sometimes the definitions then start to change and you get kind of really off into the weeds if you start letting them kind of define words that have meanings to have completely separate other meanings. Then they, that can get tricky. And the other is it's just confusing, right? And you're like, okay, so, here soul doesn't actually mean what we would normally think of as soul. It means like person, but then like it kind of does and it kind of doesn't. And you start losing the sense of like what the words mean. So like the best thing to do if he starts to try and claim a word, and use it in a really kind of non-standard way like this and say like, okay, soul is different from spirit, and spirit is what people usually mean when they mean soul, but when I say soul I actually mean person, but by person I don't mean what you mean by person. I mean both the person's body and their soul together in a unitary way. And it's like, you know what, no, here's what we're going to do. Neither one of us are going to use the word soul, okay? So you're going to use spirit for what you mean, and we're both going to use spirit for what you mean, and we're both going to use person or body or something like that for what I mean. So there's the physical, everything that goes on physically inside of your body that pertains to physical reality, we'll call the person, right? And then everything else, whatever it is you want to throw in there to your definition, as long as it doesn't include any of the things that I'm talking about in the person, you can call your spirit, okay? And then we can kind of go from there. And then you kind of disambiguated the term soul, because when they mean soul, they're going to mean a different thing than you mean when you say soul. So just make it clear. No, so there's no soul. There's your spirit and there's your person, right? And nary the twain shall meet, and that will kind of define the debate. And that's kind of trick number one. And you just kind of do that reflexively right at the start, and it can save you a lot of problems.
It's a part of your soul. It's a part of your person. It's everything that's a part of your person. That your person is your soul. Person and soul are synonymous.
So they're equal to, like, there would be an equal sign with the 3 dashes. Like the soul and the person are indistinguishable. And there's no utility in using one word over the other. You're not inferring anything.
Correct.
You're not definitely changing anything. In every sentence, you can swap those two things. So soul is a meaningless word, essentially.
If you want to call it that, that's just what we have, right? You're looking for the word soul. You're looking for a definition of, well, do we have a soul? What's a soul? You want to know what it is. It exists. It's there. That's what it is. If you want to use person, you can totally use person. If you want to find that the word soul is meaningless, then you can say the word soul is meaningless.
Yeah, I don't think it does have any substance, because if I die, my body is still entirely intact the moment after death, right?
Yeah, the only substance
now,
the soul would have
wouldn't say that I'm a person any more than you would say that I have a soul anymore. So you have to... I mean, I guess your concept of soul seems kind of useless and a bit nonsensical to me.
That's what the Bible presents. I'm only pointing.
So, two things that I want to emphasize. One is, look, the Bible says lots of things, and just because you say that's what the Bible says doesn't mean I have to accept that, because you're not the arbiter of what the Bible means when it says any given thing. So, I don't care what you think the Bible says. I'll keep my own counsel on what I think the Bible says. But number two, like, look, if we get to a point where we have determined that a term is useless, um, I mean, if you want to debate about whether or not a useless term, like, so he's defined his term and it is now incomprehensible and not useful for the conversation. So then just leave it. Just be like, okay, I'm not going to use that term then because I don't know what it means. What else you got? And just move on.
You are using the word spirit when all the other theists we hear, in the same way that all the other theists, not all the other, but many of the other theists we talk to are saying soul. So you have a concept.
No, that's the other spirit is a part of your soul. But
a divisible part
from your soul. Yeah.
But a divisible part.
Correct.
Okay. So that is what we a lot of times encounter with the soul part, and that is the part that Shannon and I don't think exists and haven't seen good evidence that part exists. So we had a whole, I don't know how long we were talking, but that was apparently some kind of definition discussion, which is our least favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's important to get it out of the way so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to know,
so the meat of it is, the meat of it, do you believe that there is some part of us that is non-material and that survives our bodily death?
So, Paul, I love you. I have a ton of respect for you. You are not done. The boring part of the definitions debate that you don't like. And it is going to cause you trouble later on, because now you have a very amorphous concept that he's sort of semi-explained what it means, but now he's conflated so now people are like inherently have souls, and so you've got like several terms here that are now muddled, and he's muddled them for you, and that's what he's done with his definitions discussion. That is not good. And so you need, at this point, you needed to stop and disambiguate these terms, because this definitions discussion that you've had has been, helpful to him in propping open a door and allowing him to confuse things, but it has not facilitated a discussion. It has done quite the opposite, and you needed to clean that up. So that's number one, just disambiguating terms, and that's something you just kind of do reflexively. Whenever somebody comes up with, you start talking about stuff and they define a term in a weird way, like don't do it, right? Just kind of shut that down right then and there and say, no, whenever you detect that, clarify it and just sort of insist on, like, look, this is what I'm going to mean when I say this. And, if we're going to understand each other, we just have to kind of clearly understand, and we're going to need to use, like, if you want to use kind of a weird term, like, don't use a regular word. Use something that you make up, right? You can have this idea, but you can't just call it the soul, because I'm going to get confused, And you just be humble about it. Look, man, I'm just some dumb lawyer, right? You got to kind of have to, like, slow it down for me so that we can understand each other, so we can have this conversation. So, if you want to call it the soul body complex, the spirit body complex is like the whole self, that's fine. But don't use soul, because I'm not going to understand you. And that's just something that it will save you a lot of time. And especially, like, if somebody starts to get cornered, like if you start to make progress, then this is just sort of like a shoot that they can pop, right? And just start confusing you, and just start using confusing terms, and sometimes people will do that on purpose, and it's like, you understand each other, you're struggling, but you understand each other. Then they start to get cornered, and all of a sudden, like, things start getting, like, what do you mean? And then they just derail the conversation, like, on purpose, so that they're, as an escape hatch, right? So you just kind of have to, like, nail that sucker shut early. As soon as you see them trying to leave that opening, you just nail that sucker shut, right? And that's sort of just a normal thing that I'll kind of do as a matter of course. Now, I didn't expect this, but it turned out there was another super good reason to do that in this context, because Look what this guy tries to do next.
The way you're using these words, like soul,
yeah,
like are you telling me that your concept of God is just God is reality?
To a certain extent, yes.
Or did God create reality?
But no, God is reality. I will say that. Reality always existed.
So God is a brute fact in your world, and reality is a brute fact in your world.
Correct.
They're both brute facts.
Yes.
Okay, so then why are we even? Then why do we need God? Then God is superfluous. Like the concept of God is clearly not needed because we have a concept of reality.
Well, this is why when I talked about reality, we interact with reality, right? Just going back to the spirit and the soul that Shannon asked earlier, right? We interact with reality. For example, for social.
I agree. We interact with reality. Get to the distinction between God and reality part, or we need to probably move on. So where's the distinction between God and reality?
There's no distinction. There's no distinction.
Okay, then
so if you want to move on,
then
move on.
We need it. Then what in the world do we need God reality concept for? What explanatory power? What does it give us?
Because we need to, as human beings, going back to spirit and soul and how it relates to theology, we need to live in a world in which we are, for the most part, as especially in a social aspect, we need to respect reality.
Okay, so, but you just said we're respecting reality, so you're affirming.
I'm just going to play like 2 seconds of that again, and I want you to watch Shannon's face when he says that, because she catches what I'm catching here too. This is the trap. Watch her face.
Respect reality.
Okay, so, but you just said we're respecting reality, so you're affirming for me that the word God and the concept of God is superfluous in this whole discussion. It's redundant.
Well, do you agree that we need to respect reality and live right by it?
I
do. We don't need to respect reality. We're a component.
We don't need to respect reality, but we unfortunately we need to operate within the confines of what reality gives us.
We have to submit to
I can
reality.
have absolutely no respect for reality whatsoever. I can be like, damn you, reality, and it affects my life not at all. I can walk around going, reality is stupid all day, and it does absolutely nothing to affect my life.
When I say respect, I mean in action, not like respect with emotions and stuff. I mean like not jumping off a bridge because you will fall because of gravity. That's what I mean.
That has nothing to do with reality. Reality is everything. It benefits our survival to understand how things operate in reality.
And behave in a way that
knowing how gravity works, we don't need God for that, and which is why we wouldn't jump off a bridge.
We're under no obligation to behave in a way. We're under no obligation to behave in a way that is beneficial to ourselves.
Paulogia. Yeah, we're in no. We don't have any obligation to respect reality, but if we don't, there may be consequences.
It has nothing to do with respect, though. You're using terms and synonyms that aren't synonyms. We need to understand how things operate within reality to survive.
Remember
that is not the same as having respect for it, which I think is where your tier is going. I think you're saying we need the concept of God because we need to have respect for reality, which maybe is something like reverence to you, which means that we need to, somehow worship it. And that doesn't even get back to the point of the spirit where like now you're basically saying back to what you initially said, that reality has ways it wants us to think and act. Reality doesn't have ways it wants me to think and act. Reality cares not about me. Period. Whatsoever.
3, 2, 1.
Do you know that?
Reality cares not about me. You can't make God a synonym for reality to say so that you can place your belief system as having respect for just everything that exists, and then do a complete code switch and go into saying, well, not only does reality not only is reality everything that exists, it has feelings and designs for me in particular, and it wants me to act and think a certain way. Because that's smuggling your concept of God into a place where it absolutely doesn't belong, and you have no justification to put it. And we just spent almost an hour getting to this point.
Remember, you're an atheist, correct?
I do remember. Yes, thank you. I remember that.
Okay, so you're an atheist. So obviously you're not going to understand an idea of what you just presented of a God caring about reality, caring about what you. I'm a Christian. I believe that's neither here nor there.
I understand the concept of God. I'm not allowing you to use him as a synonym for reality so that you can smuggle him into being everything. You can't, unless you're saying reality. Say it with me. Reality doesn't want me to. Reality wants me to. That sounds like nonsense, because it is, because reality isn't an entity with feelings.
Good on Shannon for catching him out on that. And I kind of saw him, doing that too, and I'm like, oh, this is getting a little bit, shall we say, interesting. It was at this moment right here where he says that that God is reality.
No, God is reality. I will say that.
Where I think what I would have done in that situation is and I was shouting at my phone at the time, was like, hang on, you're telling me God is reality? Because if God is reality, then either you and I mean different things by reality, or you don't think that there's anything beyond, like, reality is, again, we're disambiguating again. Come on now, man. God is not reality, in as much as when I say reality, I mean the natural world, not including any of the supernatural. So if you want to put God in there, then you're going to have to say the natural and supernatural world, or it's the supernatural, super reality. Call it super reality. It can be, your reality can be better than my reality, right? But when you say reality, I understand you to mean the natural world. And so God is not part of that, right? Because God is supernatural. So, again, it's just sort of a reflexive disambiguation. And you can see here that in this situation, it was not an accident, and it was not an an attempt to hold an escape hatch open. He was setting a trap. And he like half laid it, and then Shannon caught him and was like, yeah, you're trying to tell me, define words in a weird way and then tell me I don't know what they mean. Well, yes, I do know what they mean. I know what reality is. And you can't just define reality as inclusive of God and then say that reality exists and therefore God exists, because that's not what I mean when I say reality. So, I mean, I don't know. Kind of a low trick, and she did catch it, but what I would say to people who, here you had to rely on being a Shannon Q, and Shannon Q is like really good debater, and Paul, by the way, also is really good, really sharp, and really on his toes. And he has some great moments, like later in this stream. They do another, a bunch of other calls, but Shannon was the star here, where she just caught this guy in the act of trying to pull that stunt. And what I would say is that, for regular people who are not the Shannon Qs of the world, a really good way to make sure that you don't find yourself in that situation getting tricked like he was trying to trick her is, again, whenever somebody tries to do a weird definition, no, don't bite. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. That's how you handle guys like that.